driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times or sector time. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
To Interlagos for GT3 racing in the Precision Racing League once again. First of all, it's the Fixed Series, which has got the honour of staging our 350th GT3 race in the Precision Racing League's history. Welcome along to RaceSpotTV, everyone. I'm Ian O'Leary, alongside me, David Haynes, for this round of the championship. Round number 5, of course. That means after this week, the drop weeks will be applied and everything gets a little bit closer and a little bit more exciting maybe as well. Pleased to be along here at Interlagos here, David. It's a great circuit as always. It's not the final round of our series, which we're accustomed to it being in many series around the world. However, that doesn't take away from the fact it's a great circuit, and I'm looking forward to see what we're going to get here for round 5.
Yeah, look at us there, right in the middle of this schedule with Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Watkins Glen, Fuji, and Sebring still to come. Great GT3 racing tracks, as this one is here in Brazil as well. Technical middle sector, very fast climbing main straight, many places that you can race side by side, multiple corners in a row, which always feels like great racing.
It certainly does. Let's have a look at the standings. The great racing we've seen so far this season have got us to. Jeff Cofford still leads by 10 points and actually extended that lead over Tyler Graf in the previous round at Barcelona. Israel Osborne is 20 points back in third place with much share of fourth. William Fenton didn't start one of the rounds so far this season, so he's in fifth, but maybe slightly further down than he will be after this week. Sully Sad is next ahead of Eric Terry Haag. Then it is Kyle Colbert with Brett Furman and David Busterford separated by only a point to round out the top 10. In the AM standings, Buck Hamilton leads by 21 points ahead of Luke Davis, with Ryan Chandler behind in third. Colin McKenzie's fourth ahead of Sam Smeltzer and Thomas Rep, who are tied for fifth. Constant Quentin is only a couple of points behind them. Pete Measure, Marcelo Hurtado and Joe Peguero have not yet broken the 100 merit, as they are, although they are still in the top 10. In the team's standings, as things stand, leading the way are Lunatic Jelly once again. They have got a 29-point advantage over SGE. It's Jeff's Broken Wing Racing who are next, and those are the three real championship contending teams anyway. PLR, Simsport and B&O Cartomania are in the rest of the top 5. SG Pioneer and Mabworks are only separated by a point. Lunatic Peanut Butter are only a point behind them. Bump and Run and S Solpec Parabola Racing round out the top 10 teams in the GT3 Fixed Series. So that's where we stand going into this round. Before we go any further, let's thank the sponsors who make these broadcasts possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Buttkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest or simply worstmanship for your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. A big thanks to all of those sponsors who make these broadcasts possible. And every night here on RaceSpotTV, 5 nights in a row in a week. Tomorrow night we're racing Truck Series, of course, again at Homestead Miami Speedway from 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the day after that, Thursday night, it's GTP and GT3 Series racing from Silverstone. So make sure you join us for them at 9 p.m. Eastern, although we start a little bit earlier here tonight. The only night, indeed, that has 2 races in one on RaceSpotTV. Just over 6 minutes to go in qualifying them, and the first thing that's immediately noticeable here, David, is not necessarily about the circuit itself. That hasn't changed, but it's very, very misty indeed. Not so misty that I think these drivers will struggle to see where they're going, but just misty enough to notice and make you wonder whatever might be lying ahead for them in the remainder of today, or and indeed for both races, or indeed if it's just going to continue to be very, very cloudy and murky like it is right now.
Yep, what's clear to see is that it isn't clear to see, especially in some of the long shots down the straights. The 2 main straights around here, the front straight very curving and climbing, and then you've got that second straight there down towards turn 4. Another great opportunity to try to make some passing. What it isn't is a massively long lap. It's just over 4 kilometers, And so with the many drivers that we have, both for this series and the following, you are seeing that you're not going to get a whole lot of free space all to yourself in this qualifying.
At 92 degrees Fahrenheit, for those of you on this side of the ocean, is mid-30s Celsius, I think, so it's not too warm, even for this time of day, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, on the 19th of October, so just last weekend in Sim. On board with Colin McKenzie, who currently has the best time in AM, and look at this. This is a bit of a feature, maybe, of the day. Lunatic have many drivers in this race, of course, but some of them were helping one another draft on the front straight there. This wouldn't be the circuit you'd have immediately in your mind as one where you can maybe help someone with a bit of draft, but maybe on the way out of that final corner at turn 12, right the way down towards turn 1, a little bit of slipstream might be helpful.
What's the name of that final corner at turn 12, Ewan?
Oh dear. I'm going to go. Well, I've been told. I think it's Jun Xiao, I think. I don't think it's a hard C.
I just like to say it differently every single time, so that either one of them is right, or most likely all of them are wrong, but in fun, different, and creative ways. It's this one here, Jun Cao. Jun Cao, yeah. The cows in the summer. The best time when they're fattest and juiciest.
Yeah. Indeed, yes. We'll be slightly annoying Hugo with our pronunciation and our Portuguese here over the course of the evening. I hope you'll understand that. Over the line for Andrew Trickett here in 14th currently. Does this get him any further up? It should do. With that time, it does get him into the top 10 just for the moment. Jared Keane at the moment down in 16th position in the 222 Porsche. Bit of a surprise to see Keane down here, but let's see where he can get up to on this particular lap. Of course, he's got no excuse with the car. It is Brett Furman currently at the top of the standings. He is also in a Porsche, and the top 3 are all different manufacturers at the moment. It's a good spread for manufacturer differences so far, as William Fenton just goes to the top there by 23 thousandths of a second.
Yep, definitely seeing plenty of change happening late in the session with how overcast it is and a little bit foggy around. You don't expect the track temperature to have wild fluctuations like it might on a partly cloudy day when a cloud comes across for just 2 minutes and suddenly the track is giga, as the kids might say, compared to what it was the rest of the session. I think this is a session you can just continue to chip away at it, and then you go, oh, I really can go quick through this sector, but if I just put that together with the rest of the sectors on my next lap, then I'm a chance of continuing to improve.
This is Felix Feliz in the Corvette, the best place to the Corvette so far in this qualifying session, although there are not many of them. He's just behind the best Mustangs, and there are not many of them either. That's Eric Terry-Haag, the only driver in the pit lane from the top 10 as things stands. There's Matt Sheriff in the McLaren, just in a bit of traffic, and it'll be a bit of a problem, I suppose, in these qualifying sessions. Interlagos as well. 40 drivers on here is actually quite congested, realistically.
It's a driver every 100 meters, approximately.
That's busy. And considering how quick these cars cover 100 meters as well, that is very, very congested indeed.
They like to say a football field every 2 seconds. I think they like football here as well, I've heard.
I'll have to get Hugo's confirmation. Which kind of football? It depends.
I think they only know one around here.
Well, true, yeah, true. The hand egg or the actual foot one. Anyway, at the final quarter for Israel Osborne, currently in third place in the qualifying session, also third place in the championship standings as things stand. He makes his way up towards the line, a 10.5 behind Fenton. This will be his last chance realistically to get up ahead of him, and that won't be good enough, I'm afraid. Not even good enough to beat his own lap time set a few moments ago. So Israel Osborne staying at least third for the moment. Who else is improving maybe out there on the circuit? At the moment, the top 10 looking like they're all going either level with their previous lap time or a little bit worse than it. 20 minutes for this level of driver is actually quite a long time for them to reach their qualifying limit, which it looks like most of them have.
Yeah, you get plenty of laps in that time around here as well, so it's not like some of the much longer circuits you could go to. I mean, even like Road America, 6.4 kilometers, Spa, 7 kilometers. significantly shorter than that. Less time in laps, out laps, more time, hopefully with best laps.
This is the middle sector, really different.
To try to scan that barcode.
I was thinking that. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I don't know what it's there for, whether you have to scan that on the way out the supermarket when you're buying one or what, but there's just a barcode there for some reason.
My card would get declined, I'll be real with you.
Yeah, same. It's a testament, though, to iRacing's level of detail or attention to detail, as Matt Sheriff, I'm afraid, goes for a spin in the McLaren here, but...
well, they do say it is scanned.
If you ever doubted the attention to detail in iRacing, then there you go. That's quite extraordinary. There's David Morse, who's also got the same inside his McLaren. Yeah, it's amazing the sort of attention to detail. Really, it's the only way to put it. That it already takes with it.
You want a barcode fun fact?
Go on.
QR codes were invented at Denso, the automotive parts manufacturer in Japan, to track their parts with more detail than you can have in a regular barcode. Like, how can we have a barcode that's still easy for machines to read, but can contain significantly more information than just an 8-digit number? Boom, QR codes.
Wow, that's so a QR code is basically a barcode, sort of.
Yes, but instead of only being able to store 8 digits, you can store like 50, 60 alphanumeric characters, even to go so far as say a web address.
Yes, oh yes, well of course, as we all know these days, if you're below the age of 40 because I know my parents still struggle anyway. Let's gloss over that. This is pretty much the end of the qualifying session. Now, Felix Feliz was improved, so there was one improvement, and it goes to Feliz, who will move up to 7th place. Didn't think anyone was quite going to make it. It's only a minute improvement, actually, but the gap from even 7th place to 10th is only, 7/100ths of a second, so he didn't need much of an improvement, and that's exactly what he got to move up into the top 10. Well, coming into this round of the GT3 Fixed Series, William Fenton had the highest average starting position in the Pro Division of anyone in the active driver list, i.e. anyone who is signed up for this season. Well, that average is only going to be coming down now. The average was actually 6th coming into this, but it's certainly going to be coming down now as he takes pole position for this race here at Interlagos, and will be looking for another race victory, his 3rd of the season if he could get it, and this is 4th pole of the season here at Interlagos. He's certainly putting his hat into the ring for a championship. As I mentioned, he's missed a round earlier on in the season, of course, at Indianapolis. That means that he's a lot further down than he otherwise might in the standings. This is an onboard lap then with William Fenton, and we get to have a look round Interlagos and just what it requires to be fast around this relatively short circuit. On the power out of turn 2 and 3, try to get on the power around the left-hander at turn 3, difficult within itself, and then down in towards turn 4 to see Interlagos. This is going to be a good overtaking opportunity by the race. 3rd gear. Don't want to be all over the curve on the inside. Don't want to be all over the outside curve either through the AstroTurf. Then up towards the middle sector, and as I mentioned earlier, this is where the circuit gets a lot slower, and the middle sector I find is noticeably different to the other two actually in its behaviour.
Yeah, and then you've got elevation change. You want to climb over the curbs in a couple of these places here. So a corner like here, the car sometimes wants to, oversteer a little bit on the way in. You get to that dip in the middle and you start going back uphill. Suddenly it wants to oversteer a little bit on the exit, or sometimes it pushes depending on exactly how your car's going. But your balance will always change in the middle of the corner. You're reacting to it with your inputs, changing the throttle to try to keep the car balanced, but also get as much throttle down as you can on the exit. And then here's a place you don't want to be distracted by what everyone else is doing, because your traction out of there is so critical. You stay absolutely matched to the floor all the way around, and the timing line's not for a long time up the hill here.
And this is the moment he realised he'd taken pole. Just 0.003 of a second between himself and second place, as we now go on board with Colin McKenzie as well, who's taken pole. He's got the most starts of any driver signed up for this season of the GT3 Fixed Series with 4 previous. use that experience to take this pole position here. Of course, you don't get credited with a pole position point in the AM class because everyone scores points as an overall system. So Colin McKenzie will not get any closer to Brooke Hamilton, I'm afraid, with this qualifying lap. However, he will take the track position advantage very gladly indeed. I think one noticeable difference, and there's a missed apex indeed, even on his fastest lap. So maybe worrying signs for the rest that McKenzie had time left in this lap.
Well, you're looking up the road and you're seeing maybe a chance to slipstream off your teammate, which could be important towards the end of the lap. Like we said, a long run from what's functionally the final corner all the way up the hill and to the timing line. A little bit of the traffic gets out of the way. Nice to see. And the traffic he doesn't want to get out of the way, of course, is the McLaren just up ahead. He wants that slipstream on the way up towards the line, and maybe that just helped too, although I do think he would have had pole anyway here, depending on how, of course, fierce the slipstream is here. Let's see. In towards how they go. It's a bit wide from the McLaren, actually, just up ahead here. And maybe that's on purpose, because now the Ferrari will be a lot closer, and this is a real comfortable distance to get at. You don't want to be this close through the middle sector, of course, because you'll be slowed down through the corners, but you want to be this close by the time you get onto that front straight, because then you can really start to motor. And there you go, look at that. The speed you'll be hitting on the way towards turn one here will be extraordinary. And that is what got McKenzie the pole position in this for this race. He's also in the top 10 overall for this one too. We'll see how the race goes though, and see how he gets off to a start here. This opening section, turns 1, 2 and 3, is going to be the main key to get through cleanly. These guys at the front will have a better chance of doing so, of course. William Fenson from the very front of the field will do it from pole, ahead of Brett Thurman in second. Israel Osborne was the only driver in the pro class, or in this race today, I should say, to have taken a previous pole at Interlagos. He stops from third this time, ahead of points leader Jeff Kofod. Tyler Graff and Joshua Lewis round out the front 3 rows. Then, just under half second back is Felix Feliz in the best of the Corvettes. Then it's Colin McKenzie in the best of the Yams, ahead of Eric Terry Haag and Matt Sheriff. It's Andrew Trickett and Sully Sad sharing row 6. Jared Keane is just ahead of Andrew Venaro on an all Porsche row 7, ahead of Jay Steffi and David Buster third. Then you get into the second and third of the Yams, Joel Paguro and Luke Davis sharing row 9. Then it's 19th for Jake Vasconcelos. That's not what he looks like, by the way. That's just his dog. Waldo Walden is in 20th place, ahead of Daryl Pedersen just outside. Tino Velez, 22nd, ahead of Christopher Rhines and David Morse, sharing row 12. 25th is Kevin Bergqvist, just over a second back from pole. Regan Chandler alongside him. Lucas Nguyen and Ryan Luna next up, followed by Ryan Chandler and Barry Cochrane. Of course, Nguyen is the only Audi in the top 30. It's Ian Cabana, who's 31st, and Thomas Rep, Sam Smeltzer and Cup Series driver Lou Christian start from 34th. It's Mark Bray and Robert Jeffries who are on row 18. Clarence Rosa, 37th, ahead of Sean Mulholland and Marshall Hurtado, with Jeff Lubitsch, the only driver not to have set a time out in the 40. He will start from back, if he starts at all, of course, in this race. We'll wait and see if he does in his Porsche. There are the field, making their way up to Ferradura at the time, and that's where they'll be starting from here on this formation. A long time, David, for them to think about how they're going to negotiate turn 1, 2 and 3, and that might take some negotiating. Yeah, absolutely, it does. Normally you think I want to be to the inside of turn 1, but the way the track then swaps back the other way through that S's and drops downhill as it does it, and then you're nearly flat out through turn 3 Curva de Sol. Yeah, either way can work, particularly GT cars. You've got, enough grip, enough downforce, you can kind of go one way or the other around there. It's not necessarily a slam dunk where's the best place to be at the very start of the race.
81 degrees Fahrenheit on the circuit. That's a 10-degree drop from qualifying. Will that make any difference at all to the way that the cars behave 10 degrees cooler?
So yes, they'll probably have just subtly more grip.
I was going to say, you'd rather it 10 degrees cooler than hotter, even if it's only a small difference. Was
it that breezy in qualifying?
21 miles an hour? I can't remember entirely, but that does feel quite easy now, to be honest. Yeah, good spot. So we'll we'll see whether that actually has any effect here or not. In qualifying, it was 20 miles an hour. So yes, actually, I've just gone back and checked. So yeah, it was actually quite breezy. We just didn't quite notice. But yeah, I mean, they're probably going to feel that.
I'd say so. You wouldn't want to be in a small sailboat.
No, no, indeed. It's a good job Jareth Thacker's not here, otherwise he would have blown away, probably, in amongst those winds. So there we go. He's away. Into the final corner for these two. Good evening to everybody watching along here on RaceSpotTV tonight. It's a double-header night, of course. It's GT3 racing, the 350th and 351st PRL race containing GT3 cars. They're very popular indeed. And what you're about to see why over the next 35 minutes. William Fenton taking this from the front of the field, and he'll be leading us to green in a few moments' time. Not a single driver starting today has ever won at Interlagos before in the GT3 series. Somebody is going to break that personal record today. As the formation lap comes to an end, William Fenton will be in control of the field, looking for his third race victory of the season from his fourth pole position. He's now in control as the green flag is in hand. We're racing at Interlagos, and the McLaren powers in towards turn number 1 first. It's a good start from Osborne as well, who immediately gets alongside Furman. It's free wide, in fact, for second. Oh, there's contact. Furman initially gets loose, and there's a big crash in the midfield. Oh, you could see it happening in the background. You could see it starting, and I'm afraid it's happened down at the back of the field. There's a big catastrophe for the likes of Kevin Bergqvist, who's gone around. David Morse was the BMW you saw just in front of the camera shot a few moments ago as well. It's happened right in the midfield on the very opening lap of the race.
Bit of teammate friendly fire there per chance as well, and it's a long run to that turn 1 up the hill. You're waiting, you're thinking how you're going to approach it, and it's come undone pretty quickly for a bunch of drivers as they still try to negotiate this opening lap. Good start from the pole sitter, but further through the field, not everyone's going to be as thrilled.
Lap 1 replays to come in about 5 minutes or so once everything's calmed down, but Sully Samet already in pit lane and having repairs done, I'm afraid. To add to the list from earlier on, by the way, Bergqvist, Rines, Jeffries and Goon, Trickett and Morse all at least involved, maybe more, in the opening lap of this race, but only Sully Samet had to come down pit lane as of yet. End of the second sector for this. William Benson leads ahead of Israel Osborne, Jeff Gofford and Tyler Graf, the last 3 of which have all gotten through on Brett Furman here. Not a good start for the Porsche, who's down to 5th place on lap 1.
How quickly the laps can go by around here at just over 4 kilometers, and a lot of it at very, very high speed. About the same length as Road Atlanta or Mid-Ohio, but it feels very, very quick compared to Mid-Ohio with this long front straight, a lot of sweeping corners. So much speed that you carry through turn 3 right here. In a car like this, you get to the throttle and you just try to keep in it all the way onto the straight here down towards turn 4.
It certainly makes you appreciate how fast Road Atlanta is, by the way. It's a good 5-10 seconds quicker a lap than they're going around here. So, yeah, fair play. In towards turn 4, defence going on in the background there. There's in the group here from Jake Vasconcelos backwards as he battles with Joel Peguero, and then it's all going on a bit further behind as well for Daryl Pedersen, who's the 3rd in the queue there. You can see in the yellow McLaren. Then next up in the pink, it's Dino Vella in the 777 McLaren. He's looking for a way through as well. It's all McLarens back here, in fact, the front 4. All McLarens as things stand. They all look up the inside of one another in towards turn 8. No chance there, I'm afraid. They'll have to follow each other through the middle. A big great break already. The top 16 getting away from Jake Vasconcelos, who's gotten past Joel Peguero in this opening lap and a half.
You get this bit through the middle sector of the lap where you can go side by side a couple corners in a row. Boy, am I seeing a lot of McLarens up front.
It is the McLarens galore. There are a lot of them in the field anyway, 13 of them tonight. That makes up a roughly 1/3 of the field, just less than, oh no, exactly actually, because unfortunately Jeff Lewis didn't get to the start of this race, so it's 39 starters had for this one. Lucas Nguyen and Kevin Bergqvist have joined Sully Sad in pit lane, I'm afraid. David Morse has already made his pit stop, but he's back out again onto the circuit. Meanwhile, William Fenton weaves around. It's Ryan Osborne putting that pressure on the way down towards turn 4.
well, if you get the slipstream strong, it can really help you to try to get in a position to overtake around here. Conversely, if you're third place, Jeff Kaufold, and you're just starting to lose a tiny bit of touch of the top two, then you really can come under pressure from Graf. And then Thurman's right there as well. Best running Porsche, a car that feels like it should be good on traction and through some of the slower stuff here.
It does, yeah. You just wonder where he's going to make his overtakes, though, if he's not quite going to have the top end in towards turn one. We wait and see as Jay Steffi battles with Luke Davis. This is what happened in the midfield. It's 4 wide here, which might have been the root cause of the problems. Lucas Nguyen in the Audi didn't really have much well, I mean, it's hard to say who really had anywhere to go there with that one. The McLaren certainly on the outside didn't. That was David Morse who ended up in the wall there, and Nguyen, of course, was damaged quite badly, and Region Sully Saab was in a separate incident. He went for a spin and got clobbered by another one of the Porsches, I'm afraid, in the field, and so Sully Saab had to go immediately back to pit lane. It was Andrew Trickett who had nowhere to go.
Yeah, massive snap on those cold tyres on the race start there, and that's not a good looking car, and it doesn't get helped, does it? Bits missing on the front, bits missing on the back. I think that barcode won't scan.
That was Robert Jeffries getting caught up behind in a bit of an awkward moment, to be honest, for the two of them. But you're right, that McLaren doesn't look so good anymore, I'm afraid, after the damage and tears that have had to happen and are still ongoing. Sorry, they've already happened for Morse. He's already back out there again. I said that a moment ago. In towards turn number 4 for the leaders again. This is the second group, of course. This is further back in the group. It's good to know that realistically, in touch, about 30-odd drivers here, all relatively in touch with somebody else at least at the front of this race. It's been, other than turn 1, actually quite a clean start to this one.
Yeah, it also has the effect, though, to space the field a little bit into a couple of discrete packs after that, just based on where those incidents happen. So that kind of helps for the moment to try to keep us clean, give drivers the opportunity to settle into their rhythm, and then get racing in this one.
This is the slower stuff where this train of Porsches might well be able to make some use of it, although maybe not on each other. They won't have exactly any manufacturer advantage through this middle sector in that case. It's at lap number 4 here in this one, and already we're just sort of settling in here, just over 5 minutes gone, and this is where the problem maybe with this circuit could come into the fray. I mean, we've got a situation where pit stops will be required later on in the race. Of course, we'll need to have stops to make it the 35 minutes because of the fuel restrictions that these drivers have. Will that make everybody just ride up behind one another here for the opening 20 minutes of the race, maybe before the pit stops are made? Because at the moment, there's not too much signs of life, especially in the top 10.
Just thinking about what contributes to the speed around here, what contributes to the fuel consumption around here. And what our weather misses is the air density and air pressure readout. We're at a bit of altitude here. Theoretically, you say that favors the turbocharged cars. I know for the real world balance of performance at Bathurst, where you're about 1,000 to 2,000 feet above sea level, they give a larger restrictor to the naturally aspirated cars than they do at every other racetrack in Australia, where most of our country is at sea level.
Well, the bit people live on are.
Oh, but even the tallest mountain on the mainland of Australia is at a lower elevation than Denver, Colorado is, and that's at the base of the Rocky Mountains.
Goodness me, I didn't know that. I thought it was more hilly than that, but there you go, fair enough. Side by side, as Warden makes his way through here on Luke Davis, and this is a bit of a problem, I'm afraid, for the driver. Of course, previous championship leader Luke Davis, but lost that after a bad Barcelona. In towards turn 1, he's on the outside of Warden here, and he might well just let him go. He's sort of half down the inside, through into turn 2, and he made sure to tuck into line there. He knew that if he didn't tuck into line ahead of Vasconcelos, he could have very easily been overtaken by more, including Joel Pagaro, who is also in his class. Vasconcelos looks up the inside, so does Pagaro. Neither of them go for a move on Davis in towards turn 4.
And all these McLarens with their endurance lights fitted, looking really good in this kind of foggy weather condition. Switch back to try to get to the inside of what's effectively a double right-hander. You see the racing line takes you just a little bit wide, and you bring it back and straighten up for this braking zone.
Into the middle sector again. Walden, of course, losing a bit of ground to David Buss III as a result of making the overtake, but these are the things you have to do if you're going to make your way through the field as things stand.
I've got to correct myself so I'm not spreading misinformation. Mount Kosciuszko, the tallest mountain in mainland Australia, is 7,300 feet, while Denver is at a lowly 5,200.
Oh, that's that. I was going to say it didn't sound quite right, but there you go. Australia's still lower than I thought. So there you go. Although I don't really know
the highest point in sneakers and a t-shirt in summer.
Well,
probably helped to wear shorts too.
I was going to say that you could do that in England actually, but you can't actually do that at sea level in England, so that's not true. Anyway, we've gone off topic. In towards turn number 1 again. Walden will just drag away from Davis here. He's already got over the Ferrari driver in the number 70. Vacaselos will be looking for his move here. Dino Vella is actually closest to making an attempt here, outside the top 10, but meanwhile inside it, Matt Sheriff and Felix Feliz are going side by side, and he's going to get help from his teammate Mackenzie as well. Feliz deciding that the outside of Ferradura wasn't somewhere he wanted to be, and so he just lets Sheriff and Mackenzie go through into 7th and 8th.
You absolutely don't want to be on the receiving end of the wrong side of a horseshoe, that's for sure. But what you really noticed at turns 4 and 5 there was you got to be so careful with the track limits on the exit. You go the wrong side of the curve, the track drops away, and you're in a really difficult spot, and you will lose out if you run wide out there. So that's something that they were all noticeably being quite careful of early on in this race.
Eric Soihag looking for his way through. We'll see if he can monster his way through in the Mustang. It feels big when you're riding on board with it, doesn't it? It's absolutely enormous. Here we go, in towards... it does to me. In towards turn number 1 for Soihag. He should be on his way here, although the Corvette, of course, has some slipstream from up ahead. Soihag very close to the back of the Corvette, just up ahead here in towards turn number 1. Will Feliz be as nice? Oh, not quite. He dived for the apex, even though he wasn't quite clear. Now he's going to have to run wide. He's on a very tight line at turn 2. And round the outside goes the 89. Eric Soihag up a place. That was maybe a bit more difficult than it needed to be, but it's 3 positions lost in just 2 laps now for Felix Feliz, and here comes Jarek Keane now as well on the Porsche.
Yeah, just mean on the onboard there, the way the sound reverberates around through the car, the sound reverberates everywhere. It just feels big, like a choir in a chapel or something. And it's racing big. He made such a great move there, and there's those track limits. You don't find grip around the outside of turns 4 and 5 very easily.
This is the outside of turn 8 for, turn 6, I should say, for David Buss III. That's not going to happen on Andrew Vadaro. He stays 14th. On board we go with Buss in one of the prettiest we see these days. You don't get this car very often anymore. Of course, the first iteration of the Audi R8 GT3, whatever it was called back then, was released in about 2016, I think, 2017. It's been a very long time now on the service, really where GT3 racing properly started to take off in the end of the last decade. And now look at the field we've got on the variety. We've got not quite the exit, though, he required out of Junshao to make a move into turn 1. Osborne might have one, though, in the Ferrari. No. I get the feeling he's waiting and saving fuel behind the McLaren looking at that.
There was an opportunity there, but when you've got this gap over 3rd, 4th place, maybe it's not worth battling side by side, risking it, losing the time, falling back in the clutches of the whole rest of the field. But obviously Fenson's got a bit of pace. He's stretching his legs, not backing Osborne back. So for Osborne, you weigh up the risks, and the best benefit, I think, is to just stay with the leader, stay clear of the rest of the field just for a little bit, and you've still got plenty of race and strategy where you can try to one-up Fenson and take the race lead.
This is the sort of second group, well, was the second group on the road earlier on, from 7th place on backwards here. It's out of the field now, really. And so it's a little bit of a different race, but this is the sort of midfield and the back end of the top 10, if you like, here early on. just over 21 minutes to go. Because this race is only 35 minutes in length, we're actually not that far from half distance. Unfortunately, these guys won't be making it there, some of them anyway. Barry Cochrane going for a big spin here through Ferradura. This is, oh dear, I didn't like the look of that replay from the very beginning. Sam Smeltzer involved in this one down the back straight, I'm afraid. Oh my word, and some people having to avoid straight as well. That was an incident, by the way, with Regan Chandler in the Corvette. Andrew Trickett was the other driver who was involved with Barry Cochrane, I'm afraid, at the beginning. This is what happened from Regan Chandler's perspective. I don't think he had much say in that.
No, it kind of looked like coming back across further than necessary to get onto the racetrack. I mean, you've got that curb on the outside there, and then it ends, and you want to be on the racetrack. So the car on the inside is going to want to drift across to the left a little bit. But I didn't think that much, that far, that quickly.
I'm just seeing Sully Sadders typing in Discord. I'm wait to see what he's got to say. But anyway, I'll leave that for the moment. He seemed afraid early on, along with Lucas Nguyen, and of course both caught up in that opening lap incident earlier on in this race. Still 4/10 of a second, still less for right behind William Fenton here. As I was saying before we got to those couple of replays, we're getting towards the halfway point already because it's only 35 minutes in this one, and so pit stops have got to be thought about soon as well. For the leaders, they've probably got to wait for some of the midfield and lower end drivers to pit in first before they can think about doing the same, because otherwise they'll end up in a load of traffic and they won't enjoy it very much at all. However, we're already not far away from that point, and again, I'm just wondering, how much fuel is Osborne saving? Is he saving fuel here? He's certainly got to run on towards turn number 1 again, looking at the delta and the top left-hand side of the screen at the moment. Looks like, though, he's going to lift off and not go for the move again, based on the gap. It stopped decreasing quite so quickly, and so maybe he's edging alongside. It's hard to tell, to be honest. Oh, there they are, outside lining towards turn number 1, and no, Osborne just half-hearted making an attempt at a move there. Didn't quite go for it with full conviction. I think he's still quite enjoying hanging out behind Fenton here and saving fuel.
See, that's what I thought you wouldn't want to do, is a half-hearted look that slows up the both of you. Then Carfold, Graf, Thurman, they're just back there. And what you've done is you've put Fenton off the normal line through 1, which puts you off the normal line through 2, which hurts your speed out through turn 3 and then down towards turn 4, and suddenly you're looking at the rest of the field getting a little bit more of a sniff at you.
Yeah, I agree, by the way. I think that is probably the worst thing he could have done there. I mean, either stay right behind and save your fuel, or try and go through and push on here. But don't do sort of neither, and attempt a half-hearted move on the outside, as you say. That was not the right call there, in my opinion. Anyway, Fenton with a little bit of a wider exit from the Bico de Pato there at turn 10. This is now the final corner. Junchao for Israel Osborne, and nowhere near as close as he was to Fenton previously, but I suppose he'll be encouraged by the fact that he has been close enough to attempt moves in the past, because actually in some of the other battles we've been seeing so far, we've seen drivers struggling to even get close enough. So the fact that Osborne is a positive. He's just got to make sure he's there by the end of the race, or indeed in about 10 minutes time, when the real battle for the win comes on.
So look, that gap, second to third's now down underneath 1 second. Carfold's finding a bit of speed, and of course still got those drivers just in behind. So you've got a race really shaping up now up front for all the cars that you can see in shot, and just at least you can see visibility is at least 200 to 300 meters.
I'm pleased about that, to be honest. Although you will notice we've not got very many helicopter shots today, or at least in this session. There's a pretty clear reason for that. I think you can guess what that might be. I mentioned rain earlier on. There's not forecast to be any in the Fixed Series season, but when you see conditions like this, you never know. Has David Moore still not got his bodywork back on again? Goodness me, that McLaren still looks absolutely mangled as it was racing across the sort of infield section here at Interlagos. He's made a second pit stop a few moments ago. Unsure as to if he's actually got that damage repaired now, but there you go. He is still lapping around the place somewhere, just just a long way down in the field. Yeah, as I mentioned, not forecast to be any rain in the Fixed Series, but when you see these types of weather conditions, you do never know because of the fog, etc. Could be a surprise, but I think most of these drivers will be pleased to see a lack of rain. And in the Sprint Series, we're going to see later on, there shouldn't be any rain either. However, in Montreal and Watkins Glen, it is pretty likely, both over 80% chances of rain, possibly in the next couple of rounds of this championship.
Well, it gets very interesting, and it's not just on is there rain, but when does rain come? Do you get a race that starts dry, goes wet, starts wet, begins to dry, or there's more than just, oh, rain tyres might be needed. There's so many different ways it affects the racing, affects the pit stop strategy, affects the importance of qualifying, because the same thing can happen in qualifying.
Absolutely can. Jared Keane gets through, and Felix Feliz, meanwhile, that's for 10th place. And Feliz looks like he's losing time here. Must have made a mistake, because he's dropping through the field, and he has made a mistake through turn 4. Not only Keane, but Jay Steffi's got... Oh, he's hit the wall quite hard. I mentioned on one of the qualifying laps, you don't want to be too far on the inside of the turn 4 curve. You don't want to be in the turn 4 AstroTurf either. Which was it? He's up on the left quite far, and then he's out wide in the AstroTurf, and that's why a big hit on the wall.
Well, I feel slightly Nostradamus, because I said you don't want to get out there. It's no grip, the track drops away, and so suddenly you get a big loss of grip, and you do, and it spins you around in that case, and you find the wall just on the inside there.
That's not ideal, particularly for Felix Feliz, who is now down in 12th place. Seemed to have suspension damage as he immediately got away from the crime scene, but unfortunately, or fortunately I should say for him, it doesn't seem actually that bad. Tyler Graf, meanwhile, comes into pit lane at the end of the first 20 minutes of the race. In towards pit lane as well comes Eric Terryhagen, the Mustang, Andrew Venero as well. It's very much the time, but my concern for Graf would be, is he going to come out in traffic here that really slows him down more than would slow him down if he stayed out, as he very nearly crashes on the exit.
Well, it's happened before, tough pit exit here. Again, so much elevation change there. You're driving a very, very narrow street circuit through that pit exit. And if you are in any of the sort of top 4 or 5 qualifiers, you've got a weird line out there as well, because you're right at the exit end of the pit lane, and then it's super tight. So not the greatest benefit of qualifying well, but based on everything else, you'd take it, because up front with the driver that qualified on pole is still up front. It's worked out very well for William Fenson.
Disaster though for Tyler Graf. He's in that huge group with Dino Vella at the front for 14th place, right at the back of it as well. He's got Thomas Rep, Ryan Luna and Ian Cabana, who are going side by side right in front of him. Ian Cabana's just gone off right in front of him, actually. Not sure where he's found himself. Oh, well, he hasn't got off. He's just lost a couple of places, excuse me. But still, Dino Vella and Ryan Luna not too far ahead of Tyler Graf here, so it's a pretty big disaster. And these two will know that now. Fenton and Osborne will know where they're going to come out if indeed they were to make their stops. And to be honest, there's no gap for them to slot into at the moment. They've got to keep going.
Yeah, and that's where if Osborne can extend maybe one lap compared to Fenton, you're in a really strong position in this battle up front. So that could be the target of the early part of the stint. Although you will start to see a lot of that traffic clear now as mid-pack runners are pitting but overshooting.
David Bush III, that is overshooting in the Audi, just ahead of one of his teammates by looks things, and as a result of that they'll go out very close together indeed. Will Bush and Davis in 2 different classes, of course. Davis was the AM Championship leader after 3 rounds in this championship. There's the look back from David Bush III. Where is he going to be? Out next to Andrew Venaro, just making his way around turn 3 at the moment. Just will slot in right in amongst them by the looks of things, just in behind them, out of the pit lane. Just less than 12 minutes to go as we are already very nearly through 2/3 of this event now, getting towards the business end at Interlagos. Here on RaceSpotTV, it's the PRL GT3 Fixed Series round 5 from Brazil. And we are waiting for the leaders to come in. The big moment, the big stop for William Fenton and his driver Osborne is still at least 1 lap away.
well, time flies when you're correctly pronouncing things in Brazilian Portuguese, but even from some of the mid-pack cars lapping, they're beginning to become traffic for our drivers that haven't stopped yet.
I wonder how different Brazilian Portuguese is to Portuguese. Anyway, Brett Furman into pit lane. Here's that weird line you were talking about, David, in towards the pit exit as well. So close. If this was real life and they had those IMSA RFID cone things, it would be a big annoyance, but thankfully Brett Furman can just ignore the rules and go on the inside there, but it's still an awkward line.
Yeah, it is indeed. And so you're bouncing more across that curb, sometimes, not in this race obviously, but in some conditions on cold tyres and new tyres there as well. So it's not ideal, it is a bit tricky, but it only really affects the top 5 from qualifying. The pit stalls are given based on the qualifying order.
Side by side as one of the Corvettes gets down the inside here of one of the McLarens. Down the inside was Thomas Rep on Joel Peguero there for 4th place in the AM Championship, and this is a very good exit from Peguero indeed. He's lost places on the day so far as Peguero, based on it compared to his qualifying result, and he looks up the inside here to no success either in towards turn number 4. So Rep hangs on. Christopher Ryan's just up ahead of them, but hasn't stopped yet in the lime green BMW. He will stay just ahead of them for the middle sector at least on that slightly lower fuel load. Now it's time for the leaders to go in. They must be reaching their limit anyway, and now they're definitely coming in. William Fenton leads a whole load of them in. The top 11 in this race still have yet to stop. Now the big moment as everybody tries to hit their marks, getting on the brakes as late as possible, and indeed up on the jack for Osborne. At least a tyre taken for him. Fenton in the box, 7.2 seconds. He gets away cleanly, and his driver Osborne loses a couple of seconds. He's got to chase that down all over again. 6/10 of a second, I should say, not a couple of seconds. 6/10, but he's still got to chase that down as Fenton comes back out in the lead.
Leave the green cone alone. You saw a few drivers find that pit working area is very slippery. It's concrete compared to the pavement of the rest. The racing ABS doesn't seem to like doing 20 k's an hour. It's designed for big stops from sort of 250. So that's just it's always a mistake. It's going to cost you a second or so to just overshoot your pit box. You are better off going smoothly in than needing to come to a stop, find reverse gear, get reversing, and then come to a stop again.
Why has Colin McKenzie dropped down here at a vast rate? Because he was running very well. He was the AM leader, of course, but now all of a sudden he's dropped well off. This is what's happened to him on the exit of the pit lane. Oh, he's spun and just avoided by one of the Porsches. Now, how does this mean he's out the race would be my question here. I don't quite understand. Very slippery on the exit here. Just avoided by the Porsche, and then what happens? He tries to get back turned around again, and well, that's it really. Luke Davis is the new leader.
Doesn't beach it on the curb, does he? You can do that sometimes. These cars are so low. At low speed, you come to a stop with the bottom of the car on the curb and you get beached. No, it's going. Is that an unsafe pit exit though?
So I think well, maybe, yes. I think he's back going again. However, just a long way down from where he was before. Colin McKenzie is now 5th in class and overall down in 20th place. So I think he is still in the race, but he's just further down. Meanwhile, Terry Hargan's Sheriff going side by side. Oh goodness, that was close. The Mustang isn't good at squeezing into tight gaps, but it had to there on the exit of turn number 2. Now on the defensive towards 4, offering up a huge slipstream for the McLaren. Down in towards the Desida de Lago. Look at Sheriff here, braking late, going round the outside. Goodness me, you don't see this very often, and that's exactly why you'll end up off the road if you're not too careful. And Matt Sheriff's ambitious attempt to go round the outside ends in failure, but what a great effort it was.
Yeah, the McLaren's clearly quick, but there is just no grip if you go wide off the outside of the Desida de Lago, and Sheriff's up, really putting in the attack, the defense, that big Mustang. Tough to race with a McLaren.
Certainly is. They look like a real mismatch, don't they, in the in certain parts of the circuit.
Every generation of GT category has got to have one big boy. It's the rules. A GTE had the M8. Now we've got sort of the Ford Mustang for the modern GT3 era.
Yeah, now that the Nissan and Bentley have gone out of fashion, it's time for a new one. And here we are in the world of the Mustang.
There must always be one.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd imagine the Mustang has quite a few years left in it yet, so we're good for another couple of years. Meanwhile, Tyler Graf and Brett Furman for fourth, excuse me. This is Furman trying to regain those places lost on the opening lap, and that's a great overtake. Up into fourth now for the Porsche. You can tell that everyone's made their stop, and we're in the final 10 minutes of the race. All of a sudden, everyone realising it's now or never to make these overtakes that you've been waiting around half an hour to make.
Again, I'm saying don't go wide through turn 4. It's just no grip, no traction, sending you back up the hill, and on the back foot here, side by side through Ferragura, the horseshoe is a tough way to do it.
And Graf can't quite do it without going off the road, I'm afraid. He'll be on the outside for turn 8, and he will be through again. That's Joshua Lewis, by the way, in the red, white and blue, just in the background in the McLaren, not a lap car. So Brett Furman is very much being sandwiched by two of the McLarens now, although it's hard not to be in this field. They are very popular indeed, as we know. Just over 5 minutes to go. That should mean we'll get another 4 laps of this race. Plenty of time for this battle to sort itself out.
Wedged between the McLarens, and there are certainly times where the Porsche looks like a really strong car. Again, you're going too wide, getting traction out of some of the corners, look super strong. A little too long straights. The McLaren seems like it just keeps pulling. Bit of a rocket ship. Glad we kept our camera against the pit attenuator there.
Down towards turn 1, not close enough this time. This is certainly close enough though. Eric Terhaag, I feel like he's just faking that he's going to go to the right and then he'll dive to the left. No, he doesn't quite go for the dummy move that I thought he might. On board with Jared Keane. Jay Steffi's catching these guys. On board with Jared Keane here, just watching this fight. I think Keane has mostly done that catching because of the battle earlier on. Meanwhile, Lewis and Furman going side by side now. Brett Furman right round the outside, and now on the inside from Ferradori. You'd think the Porsche will hang on as they make contact on the way up towards turn 6, and he does indeed hang on to 5th place, just about over the McLaren.
Yeah, and it's immediately into the braking zone for that tight right hand. So the inside's the place to be at Ferragura. There's the center S, you can disagree, which way's best, but there's only one way through Ferragura, and it's on the inside.
Oh dear! Oh my goodness! I think this is live pictures. Down at the bottom of your screen, it is indeed a huge crash, I'm afraid, in the back of the pack, out of turn number 5. It's one of the Ferraris that's gone off. Number 15 it looked like, but I'm blind, so I can't tell who it is. Colin McKenzie it is in the field. Joel Darrow and Robert Jeffries have also made their trip down pit lane in the last couple of months. I think Jeffries unrelated, but Joel Pagero, certainly, and indeed it was a drive-through for Jeffries. This is the incident. It's McKenzie on the inside, and he just doesn't sort of turn left for turn 5. And he and Pagero hit the wall at tremendous speed.
Massive damage to both of their cars. It looks like at this point that's kind of going to be your race done. So there's a little bit of this and that given there on the way into turn
in front
4.
of them. What's that all about? And then have a look at this. Colin McKenzie down the inside. This is reasonable. Then there's contact. And then why doesn't he turn in for this? He turns right initially, then he doesn't really turn left enough. And bang! I have a feeling there's a bit of previous between those two, because they don't look best pleased with each other.
So there's a bit on the way into turn 4. There's a bit there.
I don't think it's unreasonable for Pagero to presume McKenzie's going to try and hit the apex at turn 5, because it's a flat-out corner.
Yeah, so I don't like that.
That's very bizarre. Very bizarre indeed for those two. They'll both be out the race now as a result of that, I'm afraid. As I mentioned earlier on, Colin McKenzie has got the most experience in GT3s at Interlagos of anybody. I'm afraid this experience not quite put such to good use. There's the smash again. Huge crash between the two. Colin McKenzie and Joe Pagano going to finish down in 13th and 14th, I'm afraid, in the AM class as a result of that. Depending on how many laps we get, might even be 14th and 15th. But we're not entirely sure how many laps we're going to have remaining here. Over the line for these two, it looks like this will be the penultimate lap of the race. They're just beginning. And up front, Israel Osborne has done the work. He has caught William Fenton, although he's not given himself backs of time to make the move. In towards Ferradura they go, with the onboard camera of Osborne. Bit of lap traffic just up ahead here as well, but Fenton going to be under tremendous pressure here for the race win. Israel Osborne, of course, hasn't won yet this season, although he's been in the top 5 on 3 occasions. He's looking for his first win of the season. He's looking everywhere for it. Right.
I believe it has delivered. The surrounds on all the buttons on the 296 GT3 wheel are actually white, but maybe they've scanned from a team that had coloured them in with their crayons, or it's like an endurance type setting. The one that I saw, they were all white text on the wheel.
Again, attention to detail and interesting difference as we make our way onto the final lap. There's the white flag. Fenton almost takes it in his hand as he drives past the starter's post, and here goes Israel Osborne. This is his last chance in towards turn 1 if he wants it. He sort of half-heartedly goes for it again. This is what he was doing in the first half of the race. He needs to commit a little bit more, and maybe he will in towards turn 4. It's a great exit out of 2. He's looking up the inside. He's just about been given the room by Fenton, who didn't slam the door shut quite in time. Here goes Israel Osborne, looking for his first win of the season. He needs to brake later. He does. Oh, he gets there. He pushes Fenton wide. Well, Fenton's not going to be pleased about that, I don't think, but Israel Osborne has the lead with just 2 sectors to go.
Well, there we go. Forceful to get to the inside of turn 4, and then used it and used a little bit more. What you need to survive is the drag race off the final corner here from turn 12 all the way up and around to the start-finish line. A place that the McLaren has been pretty strong, but there's no time like to position and have just one hand on it.
Oh, Osborne really defensive into Bigo de Pato. He thought Fenton would have a go. He thought that might be his last chance. Well, there's still a corner to go here. One more braking zone into Sancho. How much is Fenton going to push here? He flies into the final corner, but Osborne gets the exit. And surely he's going to steal his 4th PRL victory. With this run to the line, Israel Osborne, consistent so far this season, 3rd in the point standings, but this will be his first win of the season. It's taken him 5 rounds to get there, but here in Interlagos, Israel Osborne wins with a pass on the final lap. Extraordinary finish between himself and William Fenton, who finishes 2nd ahead of Jeff Coulthard, the points leader, and after the drop weeks applied, he will lose that championship lead, likely to William Fenton in the end here. Further behind, Luke Davis might well take back his AM Championship lead that he lost so disappointingly at Barcelona in a nightmare day. Well, he's back on the top step again here as he makes his way up towards the line. Interestingly, his teammate David Buster Third in the background managed to run out of fuel on the run up towards the line.
It's what you never want to do at a racetrack that's uphill to the checkered flag like Road America, like here. It's run out of fuel. Maybe at Bathurst it's not quite so painful. It's still not a great idea.
I think you could run out of McPhillamy and still make it home, to be honest.
Not quickly, but you can.
No. maybe eventually. There you go. Goodness me, what an end to that race. It was a slow burner to begin with, but my goodness, it got going at the end, and Israel Osborne takes the victory by 4/10 of a second. William Fenton will be the new points leader with 2nd place, and Jeff Coulthard, the current points leader. Tyler Graff and Brett Furman round out the top 5. Furman could never regain those places. He lost off the start. Joshua Lewis and Matt Sherwood next ahead of Eric Joy Haag, the only Mustang in the top 10. Jared Keane and Jake Bacancelos round out the top 10. 11th with Jay Steffi ahead of AM winner Luke Davis. It was Dale Pedersen in 13th ahead of 14th place Andrew Venero. David Buster Third did run out in full to the line, but he just beat Felix Feliz in the end there. Dino Vella was on the podium in AM ahead of Wildo Warden, then Ryan Chandler, who was on the bottom step of the AM podium. Ryan Luna was 20th At 21st was Lou Christian, who gained loads of places from the start of that race. Ian Cabana finished 22nd ahead of Thomas Rep, who spun right in front of Mackenzie and Peguero before their big crash a few moments ago. Andrew Trickett and Mark Bray ran out the top 25. Christopher Rhymes was the first driver over a minute back, with Barry Cochrane, Marshall Hurtado and Clarence Russa the final drivers on the lead lap. Robert Jeffries was 1 lap down in 30th. David Morse 1 lap down behind him, following that first lap incident. John Peguero and Colin McKenzie, of course, crashed there towards the end of that race. Sam Smeltzer couldn't quite overtake them after his long stop. Kevin Berkvis, Sean Mulholland, Regan Chandler, Lucas Nguyen and Sully Sad all finished many laps down. Nguyen and Sad never actually crossed the line at the end of that race. Let's have a chat to Israel Osborne, winner for the first time this season, the 4th time in PRL's history. Congratulations, Israel. Good to have you with us as well in the booth. Tell us about that final lap and that late pass on William Fenton.
Yeah, I actually wasn't really expecting to be able to get a pass like that. And I really hate that there was a bump between us, just a tiny bit at the apex. But yeah, besides that, I feel like I was saving my tires pretty well. And it seemed like the lap before, you know, he was slowing down a bit. So yeah, was able to get that pass done and take the win finally.
Exactly. Does it feel like a bit of a finally moment for you? Does this feel like it's been a long time coming for you in the GT3 Fixed Series?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been in a slump for this season and then the previous season, and yeah, I feel like I finally found some speed to keep up with these guys.
Well, congratulations on getting that victory, although it doesn't sound like it's been that long.
Right.
Maybe by your standards it has. Congratulations on the win, though, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Israel Osborne there, the winner tonight, ahead of William Fenton, who joins us now from as well. William, welcome. Good to have you with us again. You couldn't quite close out your what would it be, 3rd win of the season, excuse me, in this race. Last gas pass from Israel Osborne. Tell us about it from your perspective.
Yeah, straight to the stewards. Ridiculous. Nah, it was a good move.
Not being serious.
I was too slow. He caught up with me. I had just feel like I had no tyres left in that mid-section for the second half of that race. And Israel was just too fast through there. And yeah, after the pits, I had nothing. He was setting the fastest laps, and I was sweating bullets, and he made a good move, and congrats to him.
In that sense, did it feel like there was a little bit of sense of helplessness for you here in this race? Because you were quicker than, I would say, 37 of the other 38 drivers, but only Israel could really stay with you because you were both pulling away from the rest of the field through that first half of the race. But he was sat right behind you, possibly saving fuel as well, although you pitted on the same lap in the end, and your pit stop was actually shorter in the end. But was there a sense of inevitability during that race that he would pass you eventually?
Oh, I hoped not. I thought I could keep him at bay. Yeah, I think he just had something else left in the tank after the pit stops. He was just too fast. And then yeah, the pressure got to me. I made a little mistake, and it was his for the taking.
Well, fair enough. William Fenton, congratulations on 2nd at least, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thanks, guys. Chat next week.
Thanks very much. William Fenton, the 2nd place driver in the overall standings. Jeff Kofod was 3rd, the current points leader, of course. Welcome in, Jeff. Good to have you with us. Another podium for yourself, which you must be pleased with. You're really racking them up at the moment, although I believe, by my maths, you would lose the championship lead to William Fenton, but only very, very slightly. It would still be very close between the two, less than 10 points, certainly. How are you feeling after that one, finishing in 3rd place in the end here at Interlagos?
I was pretty happy. This track is a lot of chaos can happen, especially at the start, and I know I was kind of 3 wide in turn 1, so happy to kind of take P3. Isaiah deserves the win, and William was also extremely fast.
Is it a round you're looking forward to putting behind you? You focus on the final 4 rounds where we'll be going to Montreal, Watkins Glen, Fuji and Sebring. Are those more suited to this one which you want to put behind you now?
Yes, I've run those tracks before in GT3, so I'm looking forward to that much more than this track configuration.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing how you go next week. Congratulations on another podium, Jeff, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jeff Coffer, the third place driver. Luke Davis was waiting for us earlier on, but he's not there anymore, so it doesn't look like we're going to get to chat to him, unfortunately, in the end. But it is a race victory in the end for Israel Osborne here in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. Of course, next week's race will be from Montreal, and we'll have it live from 8:30 Eastern Time, of course, here on RaceSpotTV as always. For now, though, it's time to get forward to the GT3 Sprint Series. We'll be staying at Interlagos, 40 minutes on the clock. The race coming up after this. Time for the 8th edition of Interlagos Racing in the GT3 Sprint Series here from the Precision Racing League, live on RaceSpotTV as always. Myself, Ian Leary and David Haynes with you here this evening for the racing. We've just seen a very entertaining conclusion, David, to the Fixed Series race. Now it's time to let them tinker with the setups and see what they can come up with then.
Yeah, and there's many things around this circuit that you're going to try to optimize. Your straight line speed, how your car reacts across the plentiful curbs at this middle sector. Look at the track snake back and forth, and I'm sure the conversation amongst the safety crew there, where are we getting capereñas after the race?
Is that a cultural reference I don't understand?
Another word, I butchered the pronunciation. Here we are. Say it wrong, say it boldly, Ewan.
Yes, if you say anything with confidence, you get away with it. That's what I've been taught anyway. This is a look at the standings coming in, and my goodness, it's close. Vanessa leads by just 4 points after taking the win at Barcelona 1 week ago, ahead of Simon Terrio, his teammate. Emmett Lindqvist finished just off the podium that day. He's third now in the standings, ahead of David Holland. Jeden Conright dropped from first to fifth in just 1 day, ahead of his teammate Elliot Budzinski. Sean Dickinson was down to seventh, or up to seventh, I should say, after finishing on the bottom step of the podium. Conor Wagner is now 8th, ahead of Luke Wallace, and then Peter Nobwell is actually quite a long way behind, nearly double the gap between he and the leader as there is between Wallace and the leader. In the AM standings, it's Steve Baker leading by just 12 points, ahead of Rich Calais and Curry Kokoni. Just not breaking the 100-point barrier just yet is Chris Long, then followed by Matthew Brewer rounding out the top 5. Brian Reeves just 1 point behind him. Ryan Robertson and Miles Brown tied on points for the teammates on 85, ahead of Dakota Knapp and Richard Saavedra to round out the top 10 here. In the teams, Advanced Motorsports lead ahead of Field & S Racing, who've led from the start, but they lost that at Barcelona by 27 points. Solpec Precision Racing Gold are 81 back now, with SCR and SRTE Yellow tied for 4th. Upfront Motorsports are not up front, unfortunately, they're 6th, ahead of SimCity Racing's number 1 team. That is 2 points the gap there. SRT Unit, SimSports, SRA and Championship Racing Collective round out the top 10 here in the GT3 Sprint Series team standings. And look who's at the top again. Vincent Trepanier looking for his second pole position of this season, and maybe a back-to-back-to-back victory as well. There he is, currently pretty pleased with his lap time, and why not? He's just under 0.03 of a second ahead of his teammate. The Porsche's 1-2 with just a minute and a half to go.
Get a look at that. The weather appears to have cleared up lovely as well. Just a slightly overcast day, but it brings the track temperatures a little bit higher. The sun can peek through. The sun can actually reach the surface of the earth now that the fog is gone.
And it's look at the difference it's making as well. Would you believe it? 104.
20 mile an hour wind must have blown it all away.
It's very odd, isn't it? So, considering we're doing exactly the same time, virtual standard, or the virtual same time and date, actually, virtual standard time. It's very weird going, Tom. But anyway, and the humidity's disappeared by half. So maybe that makes sense. Anyway.
Nice day then.
Yeah, it certainly is. Matthew Brewer is currently on pole in the AMS, and look at the 7-car gap he's got over Chris Long. But don't forget, we saw this in the Fixed Series at Barcelona 1 week ago, and Luke Davis had his worst result of the season so far, and still is his worst result of the season, even after tonight's race. So anything can happen around here. Not many of these drivers, by the way, have experience at Interlagos. I was talking a lot about the statistics and stuff before the race in the in the Fixed Series, about people having been here before. I mean, Colin McKenzie, for example, was racing for the 5th time here at Interlagos today. There's only 8 drivers in this series who have had more than one start at this circuit. Vincent Trapani, the only driver who's taken pole or a race victory before, so it's uncharted territory and uncharted waters for absolutely everybody. It feels like this driver is maybe the only one who can take the 87 off top spot as things stand, as we ride on board with the Porsche of Simon Theriault. Can he get those 300ths of a second required to take pole position off his teammate?
Well, the answer is it's going to require a whole lot of commitment around the rest of the lap here, and getting that good change of direction through here, bottom of the hill, back up to the top of the hill, and then you'll get sent back down the hill again.
This is the plunge back down. This is where the Porsche, as we said earlier, should be. Theriault, the only driver inside the top 10 other than Trapani, who is still out there on the circuit. And there he runs out wide there. Don't want to go too wide, but you do need to use that exit curb, as shown by the number 89. And up towards the line he now goes. Is this going to be good enough? Trapani actually went quicker himself with a 32.2, the first to go below a 32.3. Theriault can't go any quicker, I'm afraid. And so that will be that for this qualifying session. By the looks of things, we'll have an on board in a few moments' time with the pole sitter in that Porsche. He'll be able to show us just how he was able to go so quickly around this circuit, but not before, of course, this qualifying session is brought to a close. Kevin Simpson and Peter Nobwell are still out there. This is Nobwell in the number 73 McLaren. Looks like he maybe was a little bit too wide, actually, on that occasion. And my timing screen, anyway, is showing him not improving as things stand in this session. And there we go. That's an acceptance of such as he pulls over to the left-hand side. Just 31 drivers look like they'll be starting this race here. I wonder whether some of those turn 1 incidents that we saw during the previous race will be alleviated with a 20% smaller field.
Yeah, but is it maybe going to be 20% more aggressive? That's the question to keep in mind. There's one of the Lagos that make up the Interlagos, but this neighbourhood's between some much bigger ones than you find next to the circuit as well.
Does that mean lake?
Yes.
Okay.
It also means the capital of Nigeria.
Yeah, this is true. I wonder if it's lake in Nigerian as well, or whichever, whatever the name of the language is.
Chad means lake.
Does it? Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, well, let's get back on track just for a brief moment before we go off track into a lake again. We're on board with Vincent Trapani here in the 87 Porsche. And I do always feel like when we go into this Sprint Series, compared to the Fixed Series, though, there's a somewhat noticeable speed difference. So there's especially some areas as well in which there's a difference. Down the straights, there's not a lot you can do, really, but especially on the brakes, I find the real speed difference between Fixed Series and Sprint Series does become relatively obvious, actually, even though it realistically is only a second, maybe a second and a half, that these guys have managed to find with tinkering the setup.
It's what the nose of the car is doing. You saw it there at turn 1. You're going to see it in the rest of these places, that you can brake late because as you trail off the brake, you can just make the front of the car grip. That's one of the things you just, fine tune about your anti-roll bars, your rake, everything, so that you've got the nose of the car just really going where you want through these parts here. And that's where a lot of the time is gained, the confidence is gained. You're not braking in a straight line. and then waiting and then trying to turn in gently. It's one big thing to just slam on the brakes, send the nose where you want, get through the corner and then open the power.
Sounded like he was dragging the brake quite a lot there through, not the old-fashioned dragging the brake that's not illegal, but I mean, deep trail braking there in towards the Pico de Pato there. It turned 10 a few moments ago in the middle sector. Interesting to note as we make our way up towards the line. With Trapani, this is good enough for pole. This was right at the end, by the way. He just got a little bit further out front than what we saw his teammate, Sim Ontario, able to do. And that meant he took the pole position for this race, just at 94 thousandths of a second. Warm-up is currently underway, but it's more of a cool-down session, to be honest, as you get ready for the race. And it's 40 minutes in length. Let's have a look at how these drivers will start this race here, the 31 drivers here for in the race here at Interlagos. Round 5 of the PRL GT3 Series. As Branson Trapani and Sim Ontario, Advanced Motorsports on the front, ahead of Wilderness Racing's Elliot Podzinski in third place, and Poster to Matthew Pro with an unbelievable lap to get up into fourth. It's David Mendonca and Evan Mackay next to make it 4 Porsches in the top 5, by the way, on your screen there. 7th place, a little bit further back, will be Sean Dickinson in another one of the BMWs. He's, in one of the Mustangs. He's alongside another one of the BMWs, Jaden Comright, Wilderness Racing. Then it is Luke Wallace and Nick Ludecke. That's all 3 Wilderness cars inside the top 10 again. 2nd place in AM for Chris Long. He's 11th overall ahead of David in the 2nd of the Ford Mustangs. Then it's Kevin Simpson and Connor Wagner in the 7th row. Emmett Lindqvist and Ethan Bass next up, now forced to move to the Mustang, of course. The long-time Ford GT driver, J.R. Williams and Peter Nobwell round out row 9, with the rest of the top 20 taken up by Joshua Spears and Jason Allen. It's Noah Anderson just outside of the top 20, with Miles Brown just up ahead. Gemma Luton and Devon Brock share row 12. The top 25 is completed by Steve Baker, with Chris Stewart just behind him. Of course, Baker is the championship leader in AM as things stand. Then it's Ryan Scarney and Carl Robertson, Adam Henwood and Wesley Price round out the top 30, with Richard Saavedra, the final driver in the field. His lap time, I suspect, not a representative one, given the fact he was 3.7 seconds behind. So that is how they line up for this race. And as the warm-up session comes to a close, we will be shortly with you on the grid, ready to go for another race here. 2 Porsches on the front, 2 teammates on the front as well. You get the feeling that they might be able to coordinate a nice start between the 2 of them and maybe control and dictate turns from the front of this race as a pairing of teammates.
That's optimistic, but you hope there's a chance they can do that working together. Certainly you got an idea of how the race start initially might play out. You might have like a turn 1 rule between teammates, and then after that maybe you get a little racier. I
mean, of course, that we have seen a Porsche start on pole, sorry, not on pole, but on the front row in the first race, in the Fixed Series race, and after all, Brett Thurman was 5th after the opening lap. So you're right, it maybe is a bit on the optimistic side. Maybe we will see a different start to this one. I mean, this is such a close championship, by the way. The top 9 covered by 29 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider in the Fixed Series, there's only 3 drivers covered by the same margin in terms of total points. This has been a real merry-go-round of a season so far. We've had 3 different race winners in the first 4 rounds. Trapani last week becoming the first driver to win more than 1 round in one go in one season so far. I mean, that has got to factor in here to what we're about to see. Although, having said that, Trapani and Terrio seem to be in the best form, and right now they're 1 and 2 in this qualifying session as well. Maybe this is a bit of a statement for the second half of the season.
Well, they've got different wheel rims. That's fun.
At least they're slightly. Well, are they able to tell them apart? I mean, not really. It's not that helpful, is it? The way the 2 of them are.
One's white, one's black.
Yeah, but I mean, not even the wing mirrors are different. They could have helped us out there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Normally, black rims. I'm a fan of that. They look so good on a race car. But there are a couple of classic all-time Porsche liveries with the white wheels, like the Coca-Cola livery. I think the Brumos Porsche throwback on the RSR had white rims. So for Porsche, it can be the go. These guys riding the clutch as they look to get going.
Can't tell if it's the white rims or the black rims that rims look better.
Whoa! Don't open that can of worms, buddy.
Yeah, but look better on these two. I mean, because the Advanced Motorsports car is white, I feel like the white rims are suiting them quite well. But I totally take your point about the black rims as well. Now I'm just looking at different car liveries and rims and seeing what I like the look of from up here. It starts to have helicopter shots back, isn't it? We can actually see from up here now.
Yeah, you saw the helipad near the pit buildings there, so apparently they can get airborne, and plenty of space being given also to the Porsche pace car, which I note has black rims by our drivers on the front row. They're leaving plenty of space there, plenty of opportunity, packing up the whole field behind them. Two lovely rows.
They're not exactly following the pace car. They're sort of doing their own thing at the moment. Of course, the two Advanced Motorsports teammates in control of the field. Pace car hasn't been in shot once here, and we've been looking at the leaders. It's because it's gone away, basically. They're not really following it as things stand. It must be doing quite a pace as we make our way up towards the line. There it is, miles away. Anyway, it looks like Trapani wants an early jump, and they've got to all be ready for that here. He has let them pack up, as you say, but now he's going to surprise them with an early jump, I think, here, just as they go around the left-hander. How early can he go? Now he goes. He's barely seeing the starter stand before he's underway, and immediately the two Porsches take 1 and 2 position in towards the opening corner, but the BMW already wants to upset the status quo here at the start of this race. Up the inside for Elliot Budzinski, and he's got it at turn 2 and 3 as well. He's going to be side by side with Simon Terro early on. The Advanced Motorsports trick to get them into 1 and 2 has not quite worked out well as Budzinski goes for it in towards turn 4. Terro tries to scare him off, but he can't do it, and the BMW is in there. He's in second place, and Simon Terro loses that second position on the opening lap of this race.
Just so committed, Budzinski was bouncing across the apex curve at turn 3, demanding a little bit of space for his BMW, and he's really throwing the cat amongst the pigeons on this one. Good for Trapani, but not great for Terrio.
Oh, goodness. Big drama here at Ferradura, and there's a Mustang in the wall here, and somehow a Mustang sliding through the corner without hitting the wall as well. Meanwhile, for 8th place, Conor Wagner and Luke Wallace are side by side just in the background. That's another one of the Mustangs in the form of Conor Wagner on the inside, and the McLaren of Luke Wallace. He's gotten through. Then it's Chris Long, who's made up 1 place in the AM standings. He's now only 6 places behind Matthew Brower in the lead of AM, rather than 7.
Wow, the diffuser and rear deck falling off a Ford Mustang. Never seen that one happen before, but it was from drama. Told you that outside of Ferradura is such a tough place to be. That's where the contact started. Sent the drivers off the circuit there.
Yeah, it didn't used to require that much contact to take the rear end off, that's for sure.
Then side they upgraded clips from plastic to metal.
Exactly.
Sorry, from Play-Doh to plastic.
Indeed. Defence from Ethan Bass. Oh dear. Someone has gone very deep there. Evan Mackay is the one. Bass gets through, and Emmett Lindqvist now will try and get through here as well. On the outside line in the McLaren there, Evan Mackay could get freight train if he's not careful here. J.L. Williams is there as well. On the defence again from Lindqvist. Oh, on the grass, and contact. The Corvette's going to be... Oh, it's a good save from Lindqvist, but I'm afraid Mackay's got to hold some responsibility for that, and now he's looking to see what he can do about it, to be honest. Here goes Jason Allen. I think he was going to try and slow down and let Lindqvist back through again, but Allen was right up the rear end of him and couldn't quite break in time. Back down the inside for Mackay. He'll be on the outside for 9. Bit of contact. Says a word or two, not entirely sure what it was, but probably not complimentary, as the opening lap and second lap battles continue. A big battle from 13th on backwards, and it was very messy in towards turn 4.
Yeah, perhaps a word or two not repeatable there. but you've just got to settle in for this race and for the pit stops coming, for the moves that you might be able to make if you can settle in here and get that run off the final corner, the run off of turn 3. So there's a few options still.
You're probably not aware of this, David, but the big news here is that Evan Mackay shut his door. Normally he races with his door wide open, which I think is quite psychopathic, but he's closed his door. Oh, and he's touched it down the inside. Speaking of closing doors, Jason Allen very much nearly did it to him there. On the way in towards turn 1, Mackay is going to have a good run here out of the centre S now as we ride on board with him, both in real life and in the sim. He looks up the inside, he's pulled that bit too early here, I think, unless he's just trying to put Allen off and not really go for a move here. He's gone too early. No, he's just going to dive down the inside anyway. So late on the brakes at turn 4, and Evan Mackay is up to 15th place.
Well, one door closes, another door opens.
Indeed, he rather prized that one open in towards turn 4. Meanwhile, behind, the battle for 17th place, Simpson and Brock now going door to door. And just in behind them, Joshua Spears looking to get involved as well. He's down the inside of the Mustang. Oh, and contact there through turn 6 and 7 and 8. This is quite remarkable, a really remarkable start to the race when you compare it to the Fixed Series, which by now was all single file and getting calmer.
Talking about that sort of slight difference in setup, slight difference in balance. I think you've got a lot more cars that are able to sort of point the nose to where they want to be, and everything looked just a tiny bit more pushy earlier on, whereas now these are aggressive and alive race cars, and you can go different places and adjust mid-corner and have a little bit more responsiveness to do it.
And in towards turn 1, are we finally going to get the single file that we've been talking about here? Just about. Looking, oh, well, not really, actually. The Ferrari in the background there, just getting into the back of Joshua Spears. That was Jeremy Littleton in 21st place, getting into the back of him. Meanwhile, defence and a change between Sean Dickinson and David Mendonca. They're not teammates, they've just agreeably exchanged positions.
Easy to do with 35 minutes left, hard to do with 2 or 3 minutes left in the race to come to a polite agreement.
That's true. To be fair, I'm not really sure in the point of Mendonca allowing that to happen right now either. He didn't seem to be under massive pressure. He doesn't seem to be much in it for him, is what I'm saying. Look, this is what happened to Noah Anderson. That's how he smacked the wall, and that's a very hard hit on the wall as well. He has been in pit lane ever since, but the only driver, thankfully, to have been in pit lane. And David Holland is very lucky he hasn't had to join him.
It's the world's best.
Oh!
Well, yeah, he is very lucky. Here, skill waning a little bit. Brake pedal, buddy, not so skilled.
There was definitely an whatever the opposite of an exponential curve of skill is there. Instead
it was a bit of a ski slope, let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh dear. This is the look from rearwards. As you say, very skillful at the beginning. Slightly starting to dip as he forgets where the brake pedal is before rolling backwards onto the circuit again. There you go. Thankfully, though, he's not had to join his fellow Mustang in the lane of Noah Anderson, who will be in that stop for a while, I suspect, if indeed he ever gets out of the pit lane during this race. 1.1 seconds the gap between Topanier and Budzinski. I do get the point of Anik Budzinski getting between these two Porsches, and I do think it's a good idea, but I mean, look at what it's cost him. Even on lap 1, it's cost him over a second, and he's not had a moment where he's been in the slipstream of the race leader, despite the fact he made the move in the first 3 corners.
Yep, here's a look at another Mustang a little bit backwards.
Oh, is he going to move? Doesn't know whether to reverse or go forwards. Eventually, uses the gap. Meanwhile, side by side between Chris Stewart here and Carl Robertson, who's on the inside. Good defence there from Stewart. This is, by the way, a huge grid from 16th on backwards. It starts with Jason Allen, who we were watching on earlier on, but have a look at this. On board with Carl Robertson. Great battling in the midfield. And this is the difference between the Fixed Series. You mentioned it earlier on. Live, these cars feel like they're a little bit, they look like anyway, they're a bit more alive. And I don't know whether that is playing into the racing at the moment, but it's noticeable. Look at the differences you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen. It's noticeable, the racing that we're still getting now, nearly 10 minutes into this race. Carl Robertson, you can see in the rear camera there on the defensive now from Ryan Scalny in the McLaren. Steve Baker and David Holland side by side in behind these guys as well. It's too wide, too deep through the centre S now. As Scalny's on the inside through turn 2, Robertson gives room and he hangs on to the position again.
Well, it looks like a doorbell camera for a second. Like, I don't remember inviting a McLaren 720S GT3 around. Carl Robertson gave him no invitation, easy.
The 222 Corvette came out of nowhere. That was Miles Brown. Oh, and it's a big dive down the inside from Steve Baker, who is through briefly. But I suspect Miles Brown will get back through again here on the inside line. Let's see. Well, it's not a sure thing, and now finally he breaks a bit early and lets the Porsche go back through again. That's David Holland, by the way, in the Mustang. He's 25th as things stand after having dropped way down the field. He qualified in the top 10, though, don't forget, so he will be one to really watch here in this race.
I'm telling you, it sounds like a big car. There's more echo and there's more space. It sounds interesting, very interesting, that the Mustang.
It just sounds good though. Sounds better than it looks. I know some people be going at me for that, but there you go. Up towards turn 1, and there's surely going to be a chance here for Ryan Scalny, if not David Holland as well. How quick's the Mustang in a straight line? They've very nearly scraped the Armco there on the left-hand side, as it's pit stops already just up ahead of them. That's Emmett Lindqvist looking to get out of all of this, and if go to the end from here, then it might not be a bad idea. Side by side, Robertson defends on the inside, and successfully he holds on to the position. Here goes David Holland now, looking round the outside.
Straight line speed of these McLarens in open configuration is very strong. You saw how much it got up in the rear vision of Kyle Robertson, and towards the end of this straight it looks threatening, but it doesn't seem to stop and turn as well. You see this again wide.
That definitely didn't stop him very well there. Ryan Scalny wide, and Steve Baker in the Porsche will be alongside him now as well, looking and not going. Well, sort of going actually, side by side. Round the outside for Baker. What a spectacular move that would be. Out of Ferratura and into turn 8 now. He'll have the inside for 9, but that will turn to the outside again at 10. And Miles Brown surely is just going to follow whoever wins here. In towards Pico de Pato. Baker around the outside late on the brakes. The McLaren a bit too far up the inside curb. Maybe now down the hill at turn 11 he's going to do it, and now he goes with the winner. Oh, Miles Brown couldn't quite do it, couldn't quite capitalise.
So where is that Corvette strong? I think on the way into the corners, getting onto the power off the corners, he gets really good run here. But the McLaren, it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling in the straight line. It looks a little bit lower, it looks a little bit sleeker, and it's got a really great power curve.
And Steve Baker decides that now's the time to come in. He's probably not wrong. Outside line for Brown on Scalny. Oh, very late on the brakes for Brown. And he gets the inside at 2. That's a very nicely executed move, but he gets it wrong at 2. And he's off in the grass. He loses a place. Now, was there contact with Scalny, or did he just end up doing that on his own?
I think he was very ambitious around the outside of 1, and then a little too ambitious through 2 as well. But again, you're seeing in battle between a Corvette and a McLaren, the Corvette can go where it wants on corner entry, but the McLarens have just got so much speed in a straight line.
They certainly have. This is the 16th place group, Anquards. It's a very interesting group, isn't it? Very enjoyable to watch as things stand. But we're just over, would you believe it, a third of the way, or just coming up to a third of the way through this race already. It's absolutely flown by because of the battling we're seeing at the midfield. Personally, you know, I don't think this is actually very good for their races, but I'm not complaining at all, because it's fantastic entertainment, and I suspect we're going to see even more here on the way in towards number 1. Jason Allen under pressure here from Kevin Simpson, who's in the Porsche just behind him.
It's a good mix up here across these positions. again, through turn 1, it looks like the Corvettes can go wherever they damn well please, and the strengths of some of the other models of car are elsewhere. Seems like, we saw Corvettes being able to, hold their line around the inside, be able to go around the outside and hold space through the corners, but then they need to get a good run off the corners, get a car length or 2 head start on their rivals.
That was Kevin Simpson coming into pit lane, by the way. Only Lindqvist and Baker have done the same. Feels unbelievable that those guys can make it to the end from half an hour out, as Lindqvist tried to, but it must be possible. And it must be a good idea as well, based on these groups. This is the group from the lead of the race, almost. I'd put it, though, more accurately from 6th place on backwards. Peter Nobwell is the driver we've joined up with here, and you're looking back at J.R. Williams. Just behind him is Evan Mackay, and there's the bump from the Corvette as it all gets very close through this middle sector.
But this guy has no trouble getting off to sleep.
Very good.
But not right now, because he's focused, getting those gear shifts right. You get just a little bit of a good run, I think, on the front straight in these McLarens. He's pulling a little bit more car lengths here in the straight line. What you need to look out for in the braking and turn-in zone. The Corvette gets so close.
He's missed the apex there slightly, Nobwell, but he's just going for a later one. Then the run out of turn 2. Go on board with J.R. Williams, one of the SRTE Unit Sim Sports drivers in the Corvette, and making their way down in towards turn number 4. Development at the front of the race, by the way, is that Vantage has been caught by Elliot Brzezinski now. 6/10 of a second. The BMW is certainly going to be getting the slipstream now on the long run in towards turn number 1, although he's brought Simontario with him. The pit stop phase for these three surely going to be really important, feeling that track position really vital for this race.
Oh, and Dickinson looked like they were getting a little aggressive off the back there as well. So this top 3 finding a little bit of space all their own. And Budzinski's got to think about the sandwich he's found himself in.
And Budzinski, of course, quite a lot further down in the standings than maybe is fair, because he finished down in 25th at Indianapolis 2 weeks ago. Other than that, he's been around the top 5 in every race so far this season. I think he has been inside the top 5 in every race this season. Sorry, top 6. He was 6th last week, not 5th. But there you go. He's been very strong in the first 3 or 4 rounds, as side by side between Brower and Dickinson, also between Nodwell and J.R. Williams. But now J.R. Williams is going to have that pretty easily. It looked like Nodwell really gave that one to him.
Yeah, and if you're not going to get ahead before the braking zone there, I think Williams has got just a little bit more speed.
Looks like it. As we look back at Nobwell again, can't see quite what he's looking into at the moment. Single monitor, triple monitor. We know we're not looking into VR, I suppose, but
he's looking through glasses, that's for sure.
That is true. Oh dear! David Holland ramming it down the inside of a Ferrari. That was Jeremy Littleton, who, well, depending on the moments preceding that, might be feeling a bit aggrieved. Well, he is feeling a bit aggrieved because he's flashing the lights now furiously.
In that headlight flasher button on a Ferrari 296 GT3 rim, just underneath your left thumb. 2 buttons down amongst the other adjusters, so pretty easy to find as they're then about to reach for the downshift in the braking zone. They definitely, yeah, a bit of a robust battle.
Almost as if they're advocating for headlight aggression, which is pretty commonplace these days in the real world and in sim racing indeed as well. As we continue to follow this extraordinary battle for 16th place, Jason Allen still at the head of it. Now, of course, of Devon Brock, because we've seen Simpson in the pit lane. But the fact he's behind Steve Baker suggests to me that maybe it's the right call to get out of this group and out on your own. These three aren't going to have that luxury, of course. They'll either have to wait until the very end of the cycle, or they'll be in traffic if they pit early, to be honest. It's Francis Trapani leading Elliot Brzezinski and Simontario, but as you mentioned, they really have found some speed over the rest of the field, and it's between those three. But there's 2 teammates versus 1 as things stand.
You don't see a whole lot of other BMWs up front here other than Budzinski and his teammates, but the car looks good overall. I think it feels like a balanced kind of package. You get this thing with the turbo cars as well, where the power at 5,000 RPM is the same as the power at 6,000 RPM, is the same as the power yada yada. They have a really broad curves because of the way the balance of performance sort of works on the boost pressure, etc. So on the long straights, whether you as you shift up through the gears, the power doesn't feel peaky or like it spikes a little bit, like with the revvy Porsches, where out of some corners you're in the right rev range and it really picks up the throttle well, and others it just takes a little bit to get going. Here, all good for the BMW as we find another.
Yes, one of the fascinations of BOP racing, GT3 racing, down the inside for Jaden Comright. BMW is really coming into their own in this race, actually, after a couple of weeks of struggling a bit. 6th place now for Comright, after qualifying in 8th place. Just behind, Nick Ludecki is also in the top 10. That 3 Fildenez BMWs up inside the top 10 as things stand, and 2 of them inside the top 6. So it's back to a good, strong performance from them again after Advanced Motorsports took their top spot in the team's championship last week by gaining 29 points on them. They've now got 27 points of a gap. So there's the math for you as we approach half distance. But expecting 26 laps in this one. This is coming towards the end of lap number 13.
Here's your fun Brazilian Porsche fact. There are a handful of Porsches that were on a ship headed for Brazil when the ship sank, and they are the deepest Porsches in the world at 4,500 meters below the waves.
In the Atlantic Ocean? Goodness me.
Yes, off the coast of France in the Bay of Biscay.
Oh dear. That's an expensive sinking. Although
they are
not
not
there are many
the most,
ones, I suppose.
They are not the most isolated Porsches in the world, because there are about 20 of them on that ship. No, in Norfolk Island in the Pacific, there is one Porsche that is approximately 2,000 kilometers away from its next nearest brother.
I presume the next nearest one is in Australia somewhere. Given that
it's kind of equidistance Australia to New Zealand and New Caledonia out there, I think.
Right, yeah. I know it's very remote out there, so I can imagine they're a long way away from, yes, other cars, indeed. Anyway, out of turn 3. This has got a lot closer. For 7th place, David Mendonca, the cork in the bottle again, as he was earlier, but he let... I'm not sure who he was at the time. He let Comright through. Was it Comright or Wagner? Well, anyway, Conor Wagner's down the inside now for 7th place. Oh, and that's a move. Oh, there was contact there. Mendonca tried to get the cutback. I don't think Wallace was quite expecting it, and that is more contact with Nick Ludecki. Wallace is in the wall. Ludecki goes for a spin, and Chris Long is the one who benefits in the AM class, up to 9th position. But that was a comedy of errors and awkward moments, I'm afraid, out of turn 4. That group battling over 7th place.
Well, it reminds of a previous incident where you had 2 cars sort of tangle coming through there out of sort of turn 5 and then heading up towards the hill, each of them trying to stake their claim to the pit of the racetrack that they wanted. It spun to the outside, that one went to the inside just then.
And the McLaren both times not seemingly at fault. We'll see if that's actually true. Nick Ludecki here. So it's not really his fault either, actually. And a bit of avoiding driving from Ethan Bass in the background. That's the Mustang driver you saw going off in the background. So Ludecki was dived down the inside of by Chris Long, who was trying to be opportunistic. Not really his fault, but I think what happened was Wallace didn't quite realise they were 3 wide, and so only gave space for one car.
Given a whole handful of positions to this group of drivers. Like you said, Ethan Bass, big avoiding movement, and then J.L. Williams, Peter Nodwell, Evan Mackay have followed through as well. This is Bass's on board, sees a bit of 3 wide up ahead. He goes which way? That way. The paved side of the runner fluid further from the wall. Good call.
And if you had a penny for the amount of brake he used, he'd be very poor, because he was absolutely pinned. Despite the fact he saw 2 drivers spinning ahead of him, he thought, I'll accelerate into that. and he's now ninth as a result. Well, not as a result, but he's just passed David Mendonca as well, and he's ninth now in the Ford Mustang. Fantastic driving from Ethan Bass, who always seems to gain places from where he qualifies. Not sure whether that's because he underqualifies himself or whether he just races well, or both indeed, but he certainly seems to gain every time. Meanwhile, fellow Mustang David Holland is having a bit of a troubled time getting through the traffic. Jason Allen has yet to be overtaken in the last 15 minutes or so, but now finally that is broken as David Holland gets through, and waiting for this moment for a long time has been Devon Brock, who's to the inside as well in the other McLaren. He looks round the outside through 11. Now he might jam it down the inside at 12 here as well. He has a look. Oh dear, that's close. Nearly contact. No, not quite. And he'll have to have a look in towards turn number 1. Jeremy Littleton just in behind as well. But goodness me, it's a close battle. And Allen still cannot be overtaken by Devon Brock anyway, although David Holland did just show him how it's done.
Expect it won't be too long until the pit lane gets a bit busier than it currently is. Emmett Lindquist is the highest running driver who has made a stop, as Evan Mackay and Luke Wallace are going to come in together.
It's really the time of day to be making those stops now. That's number 9 of the day. That makes up about a third of the field now in this race. We have unfortunately lost Noah Anderson, who crashed on that opening lap. Excuse me. The only driver though to have come in for a long stop so far, which is good news. Even Wallace hasn't been taking a long stop, and in fact it was the shortest stop so far. So clearly not much damage done there in his scrape with the barriers on the run through turn 5. Back we go with Allen and Brock, and I think the bigger frustration for Brock is that Jason Allen's not in his class. He's trying to overtake the McLaren so that he could get up to the likes of Chris Long, but the longer this battle goes on, the more impossible that seems. He's now a quarter of a minute off of second place in his class.
I've never heard anyone say 15 seconds that way, but it's true. A gulf opening up between sort of your top 2 in that class and Devon Brock here.
Just makes it sound bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going for. It's like, is that misleading? I don't know, maybe. Anyway, towards turn 1 for Jason Allen and Devon Brock. No, nothing doing there.
I mean, I love to
for the apex.
Put something in the microwave and set it for a quarter of a minute.
That's quite short, really. Quarter of a minute. What, you heat it up in 15 seconds? I mean, really.
Oh, just give me a quarter of a minute. I'll be there soon.
Yeah, I mean, we say quarter of an hour. What's wrong with for 15 minutes? What's wrong with quarter of a minute? Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you one thing, by the way, that will heat up in 15 seconds if you want to try it in the microwave. An iPhone. So there you go. Don't try that at home. But it's that's an.
You're off the rails.
I'm absolutely not going to be doing that, by the way. Just for your everyone's comfort. Out of the final corner for the leaders, Bunch Trevani is still leading. Elliot Brzezinski and Simo Terra. Not much happening for these three, but we are waiting for these pit stops, which there will be a lot happening for. Is it this time? The answer, no. Thought Trapani was taking maybe a slightly tighter line, but not quite. As they make their way in towards turn 1. Sorry, go on.
Quarter of a minute in the microwave if you're maybe just trying to soften up a bit of butter so that you can brush it onto some garlic bread.
Soften up some butter.
Yes.
I mean, mine doesn't get that hard. So.
But you're trying to melt a little bit of butter so you can brush it on something. Like pastry or garlic bread.
Most of us just taking it out of the fridge about a minute before we use it or something.
But then it'd be soft, but not like, you know.
Yeah, I sort of get what you mean, but I won't be doing it. So there we go. You can tell these three are just following each other around, just for the moment. It will get very very loud indeed when these three do come in, and you suspect as this goes on now, the three of them are just that moment where they run out of fuel and make their way down pit lane. William Brennan was thinking the same thing as you for a quarter of a minute. Okay, maybe I'm in the minority here.
I think the interesting thing that's going to be something to watch out for with that top three when they stop isn't just, you know, when they stop, what the fuel strategy is, but what the tyre strategy is. Because I'm pretty sure we saw Trapani and Theriault go for one front tyre at Indianapolis earlier in the season. And then again here, we've got a relatively short racetrack with a lot of left corners, a lot of long loaded left-hand corners as well. So like here at turn 3, and then you get to 4 and 5, and then even up the hill through Junqiao. And so they could maybe potentially be looking to go that one front tyre again.
Mendonca and Bass into pit lane. You can see how far Bass is stopping down, by the way. He came in with Mendonca pretty much nose to tail. That's how much progress he's made throughout this race once again. Great job from Ethan Bass in the Mustang. Where are they going to come out in relation to the others? Behind, Bass will be the first of those who have made a stop so far, and he'll be ahead of David Mendonca. They are just in behind Ryan Scalny, though, in a bit of traffic. Same is true for these three. I think Budzinski would like to do something a little bit different here and try and get ahead of these Porsches in the pit stop phase, but I mean, it's so impossible when the field is so spread out like this to get some clean air and actually make use of an early pit stop.
Yep, lots of cars, relatively short racetrack. It's also a relatively short pit delta though, as well. So rather than, you know, taking your stop and ending up in a whole bunch of clean air behind the pack, you end up in the middle of the pack, because it's quick pit entry here, and then you brake to 80 k's an hour, and then it's not a massively long pit lane, and the pit exit's not particularly taxing as well. So I think a drive-through penalty would only be 15 seconds here.
Late on the brakes for Theriault, and into the box in a few moments' time. He's putting Budzinski in a really difficult situation here. Now there's the potential for Trapani just to take a little bit of a slower lap and Theriault to get out in the lead, but let's see if that happens. That would be quite the team play that I don't think is really going to happen here. What's the stop time going to be for Theriault? 7.9 seconds. That's right on the money where he needs to be. Now, will he be in clean air? That's also what he needs here as he makes his way out. Nick Ledecky just gets out in ahead of him here. It is going to be a problem for him throughout this outlap, I'm afraid. Being right in behind a teammate of Elliot Budzinski. That is not good news.
Will Trapani maybe slow up Budzinski? I don't know. Will Ledecky maybe slow up Theriault? Two very, very well-performing teams here today, and the shoe can be on the other foot if you want it to be.
Well, how interesting it would be. Two sort of slow pairings, slowing each other down, trying not to win almost, and trying to help somebody else win. Goodness me. In towards Junqiao they go. Surely they've got to respond. Surely at least Budzinski's got to respond here, because he'll be ahead of his teammate. They'd make sure of it, and that would be clean air as well. But I get the feeling Trapani will be in here too. Does he pull to the left-hand side? No, and neither does Budzinski. So they can. Oh no, they're not bothering with the rules. Fine. Into pit lane they go. And Trapani versus Budzinski. Last 9 minutes of this race, and the big pit stop is upon us.
They love to go through the gearbox in the pit lane. You noticed that it was fifth gear in the lane from Theriault. But neither of these cars going up on the jack, so that's a variation in strategy from what we had seen from these guys previously. There's the driver they're trying to beat off the lane. You could have gone either side of that green cone if you wanted to. I actually respect the hustle to go the right, inverted commas, side of it.
I think it cost him a bit of time, though, to be honest, or indeed the Porsche might just be a little bit more nimble at the real low speed that there. Has anything changed here? Doesn't look like it. Trapani leads Budzinski, leads Theriault, and 8 minutes on the clock. Let them free, let them race, and we are going to hopefully get a grandstand finish to this one in the Sprint Series. It felt very much in the first stint like they were waiting for this moment. They were waiting for the time to elapse, waiting for the pit stops to be behind them, but now it is. It's time to go. The last minutes of this race are here, and Elliot Budzinski's got to give this a go now to prevent Spencer Trapani from going 3 for 3 in the Sprint Series.
So after all the pit stops, you just end up how you were before, but we are racing to the end here.
I mean,
So again,
I have a feeling... Sorry, go on.
The pit stop times, yeah, a good one for Budzinski, but then also a really good one from Jaden Conwright a little bit deeper in the field. So as long as he's got enough fuel to race to the end, we saw in the previous event that everyone wants to cut that fuel stop really close. Not take any more fuel than they have to, but you absolutely don't want to run out on the final lap. It has been a costly mistake that some have made before.
I think Budzinski's got to give Trapani a go here before Terrio gets back, because I think he's going to be soon caught up in an advanced motorsport sandwich, and that's going to prevent him from advancing his position probably. So we'll see if he elects to do that. But he's also got to think about the amount of laps remaining here. 5 to go, including the one that they've just begun. He's not got all the time in the world to work out how he's going to do this.
This is the onboard from the BMW. It's got a real mirror, and I reckon you spend a lot more time looking at the rear-facing camera one. But Budzinski doesn't want to be looking there just yet. He wants to be looking up ahead at this race lead, working out where the strength of the BMW is, that maybe the Porsche isn't quite as strong, because that's where you're going to be able to pressure and try to make an overtake.
Now, the top mirror could have been taken out for weight saving, to be honest, but he's still got it anyway.
I mean, even if you've got your minimum bop weight, that's weight that's up too high. You're trying to get your center of gravity down low.
Yeah, exactly. Some grams to be had there as they make their way into the final corner at Junxiao. Very wide line from Budzinski, even wider than the normal wide line they normally take. At the final corner, the Porsche should have good traction, but then watch the BMW motor, just a quarter of a second between the two of them. Trapani versus Budzinski on the way towards turn 1. When will the tide start to turn? Now, just as they get round that final left-hander at turn 15. He really starts to get there as the Porsche just runs out of legs towards the end. There he goes. Budzinski super late on the brakes. Oh, it's impossibly late, and he's got it down the inside of this contact. Trapani misses the apex at turn 2, straight into the side of Budzinski, who's got the lead. That's unbelievable. How late do you want to get on the brakes at turn number 1? And Elliot Budzinski's got the lead here with 5 minutes to go in this race. He defends again. Trapani is not going to give this one just too easily. He's on the outside line. He's not going to get it there. He'll get the exit, and he'll have to stay behind through the middle sector. What a moment for Budzinski. Late on the brakes, he's through into the lead.
Well, he sold him one at turn 1. That included, delivery fees included. Like, oh, I'm going to look to the outside if you're defending the inside. Psych, there's still room to the inside. Here I go. And then they lent on each other just a little bit. But Budzinski's got it. Now it's a game of keepings off, because look at the 2 Porsches behind him, lurking, looming, with a couple of minutes left still to try to strike back.
There's the look on Trapani's face. No particular expression, but just concentration for the moment as he tries to work out how he's going to regain that place. Budzinski not quite up on the inside there, I'm afraid. And Trapani is very close here. I have a hard time believing that's 4/10 of a second, to be honest. He's already gaining. Going to be getting a big slipstream, of course, from the BMW, but it is strong in a straight line. And as we saw, Budzinski is very strong on the brakes here. Will that make it difficult for the driver we're on board with currently? It certainly looks like it. In towards turn 1. Budzinski knew that was coming, but Trapani goes for the outside anyway. Goes far too wide. And Budzinski now is going to have a chance to get away. An unprecedented chance to get away. And where's Terrio? He's going side by side with his teammate. Here the teammates go side by side out of turn number 3. Surely they're not going to battle. And no, he gives it up to Simon Terrio, who now will chase after Budzinski. This is going to be a grandstand finish to this race. 3 laps to go, including the one we're currently on. But with Budzinski so strong in towards turn 1, surely it's going to be really difficult for these Porsches to actually make a move here. We'll see. In towards Pico de Pato, and Budzinski holds on for the moment. Then it's Simon Terrio, then it's Francis Trapani. Sean Dickinson's 4.1 seconds behind, and he is gaining as a result of their battles in the last few laps. I think he's going to run out of laps to get there, though, as Trapani is now starting to make a few mistakes. Goes wide at Jinshout. You can tell that losing the lead and losing second place has really gotten to him here. With just through that corner alone, you could tell. And it looks like he may well be ending up this race third place in the end, losing a little bit of his lead to his teammate in the championship. Brzezinski, of course, 17 points back at the start of the day. He needs to gain some of those back again, and right now he is gaining them with just 2 laps remaining and 2 minutes remaining at Interlagos.
Well, the BMW looked like it pulled really good towards the end of the straight. It looked like it slipstreamed pretty well. I'm not sure the Porsche's doing that quite as well. I think the Porsche can brake pretty deep, turn in while braking pretty well. And so out of the slower stuff here, the Porsche should be okay. Brzezinski, I mean, waiting this whole time, and then he saw that was his moment, and he's on.
Is there going to be that one more chance for Simon Theriault here? I say one more. It will be the first chance that he gets to get into the lead. He only improved from his previous best of third position in this race, running in this race, on the last lap. He's not been very long inside of these podium places, but now, all of a sudden, he's got a real chance to win this race. Is he close enough, though? With just 1 minute to go, this is the last run in towards turn number 1. And Elliot Brzezinski has got more than half a second here. The Porsches, of course, are going to get the traction. Of course, they'll have a slipstream as well. A big slipstream because of the pole the BMW punches in the air. But Theriault's nowhere near here. It would have to be the most extraordinary lunge that even Elliot Brzezinski, I don't think, would be able to achieve. White flags out here at Interlagos. Turn 1's behind them. Elliot Brzezinski is surely corners away from winning this. He's got half a second for Simon Theriault, who's going to push him all the way here.
Just got those critical couple of tenths that save him from being attacked at the end of some of the straights. Still, again, you got just one tenth there over Theriault. If Theriault was a tenth closer, you could think about having a go. He could try to force Brzezinski to defend, but right now, Brzezinski can take all the lines that he wants, all of his best ones, to optimize his car and its balance and how he wants to race it. And there's time up and limited opportunities for anyone to stop him. He's run this perfectly.
It's got to be the middle sector now for the Porsches. And the Pico de Pato is as good a chance as any, but he's nowhere near. Is Theriault now having to look over his shoulder at his teammate? Is Trapani trying to get back ahead of him here as they run through the middle sector? He's getting closer. Brzezinski knew they were going to have a dive there. He went a bit deeper himself, but he's held on through here. Down the hill at turn 11 he goes now. And Brzezinski is surely a corner away. Out of the final corner he goes. He gets on the traction well. Theriault and Trapani make errors. They're going to be side by side to the line here, other two teammates. But Elliot Brzezinski is going to take his second win of the season, his first for 3 weeks, back when he won at the 24 Hours of Le Mans circuit. He weaves over the line here at Interlagos, taking another victory in the PRL. Elliot Brzezinski, with a great pass, with a few laps to go, wins here at Interlagos ahead of Theriault and Trapani. Meanwhile, Matthew Brewer will win in the AM class, just a couple of positions in the end, ahead of Chris Long, who finishes in 9th place overall. That will be a great result for him, especially for Brewer, who's currently 5th in the AM Championship standings. But what a great race that was. What a great finish. Brzezinski bided his time, and he played that, with hindsight actually, he played that race to absolute perfection.
He had just the right time of pit stop as well, that he came out after those stops. He was right with them. He hadn't shown his hand or anything too early, but he knew what he was capable of, throwing it down the inside of turn 1.
I think that one, turn 1, is actually a more important pass, arguably, than the actual one for the win in the end, because surely if he ends that opening lap in 3rd place, I don't think any of that happens. Anyway, we'll discuss that in a few moments' time. 6/10 of a second, the gap at the line. Theriault did hang on from Trapani in the end, with Sean Dickinson just missing out on a podium. Jaden Comright and Conor Wagner win next to Matthew Brewer, the AM winner. Ethan Bass got up to 8th ahead of Chris Long, David Mendonca, who rounded out the top 10. I won't tell you how far he was off the lead. JL Williams was 11th ahead of Evan Mackay in another one of the McLarens, just ahead of Peter Nobwell. Nick Ludecki dropped to 14th in the end, unfortunately, after that incident he had with Luke Wallace, who finished down in 17th. Between them was Emmett Lindqvist and David Holland. Jason Allen, Joshua Spears and Chris Stewart rounded out the top 20. Steve Baker, the AM Championship leader, finished down in 21st. That's a pretty big points hit for him, I'm afraid, in this one, although he should still hang on to the lead in the championship, pending drop week, of course. Kevin Simpson, 22nd, ahead of Carl Robertson and Miles Brown, the teammates, 23rd and 24th. SCR's Ryan Scowney finished the last driver inside the top 25. Richard Cerveda went from the back to 26th, with Wesley Price, Adam Henwood and Devin Brott, the final drivers on the lead lap. Jeremy Littleton 1 down in the end, and Noah Anderson 24 down after crashing at the end. Let's chat to Elliot Booth, who is a race winner for the first time in a few weeks. Welcome in, Elliot, again. Congratulations on hanging on for that victory. Tell us first of all about that last lap and the final few laps indeed. First of all, your move, which was, I must say, quite spectacular in itself, but also hanging on for the win as well. Just how was that?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a relief after the past few weeks. You know, we've been struggling a lot with the BMW, and kind of in practice today, it started to look good. And then, yeah, as soon as qualifying ended, you know, we just tried to stay in there as long as I could, and then, yeah, the move kind of happened at the end where I think I had a little bit better tires than Trepanier, and so, you know, I was getting closer and closer, but still quite a ways back, and I thought if I could just kind of surprise him into one, then there'd be nothing he could do about it. So I saw the gap was a little bit closer on, I don't know, whatever it was, 3 to go, and just put on my big boy pants in center. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. And then you know, the last couple of laps defending was just making sure I got at the exit of the straightaway, because they were a little bit better at the back of the infield, but you know, we had quite a bit of straight line on them. So I knew as long as I could get a decent exit out of the last corner, then I'd be home sailing.
This may sound slightly strange, but I actually think your pass into turn 1 on lap 1 was possibly more important to the outcome of that race. How much do you value that overtake as well? Getting between the two Porsches for that first in the race, how important do you think that was within hindsight?
Yeah, I think it would have probably been a third place, maybe a second without it, because yeah, I knew if I could get him into one, then there might be a chance. But if I was stuck behind, then I might have to defend from behind, or still stay in the tracks of the second Porsche, which were very, very difficult to pass. So yeah, I think the first lap was quite crucial. We had a nice little run into 4, so happy to come out in front on that one and on the one in the last few laps.
Well, congratulations on the win, Elliot, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, I think this race was a bit more up for PDR, so I'm happy to bring the momentum to us.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the win. Elliot Brzezinski, there, winner tonight here at Interlagos. And in the AM class, Matthew Bro was the victor this time round. Welcome in, Matthew. A 7th place overall finish, but more importantly, an AM Championship win for the second, not Championship win, but a race win in the AM Championship for the second week in a row. How are you feeling after that one? Your lead did come down with regards to the amount of cars you had between yourself and second place, but you never had to race on circuit for the win, really. How was that overall?
Felt really nice. Had a really great qualifying. I knew the guys behind were quicker than me in the race. So it was just a matter of damage control, trying not to fall off too much. But all in all, had a really great race. Had a fun time. Burned my tires a bit, but other than that, don't really have anything bad to say about the race.
You'll move a bit closer to the championship lead, both with this result and with the drop week being applied, of course, because you missed around a couple of weeks ago. But how do you think these two wins set you up now for the rest of the season, the last 4 rounds?
Well, I had a rough 2 first races at the start, Monza and Le Mans. The Porsche wasn't really great at them, but yeah, just trying to move forward. I know I now have a shot at the championship, hopefully, so I'll just keep my head down, try and get as many good results as I can, and try and hopefully get it at the end.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations on the win tonight in AM, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew Brewer, the winner in the AM class. Unfortunately, none of the other podium drivers are going to come and chat to us, so that'll just about do it for us here tonight from Interlagos. Make sure you join us next week, of course, from 8:30 Eastern Time, where we'll be going racing from Montreal before our 1 week break ahead of the final 3 rounds. So make sure you come join us for that one. It's been a fantastic couple of races here at Interlagos, though, David. It has thoroughly delivered once again, and a lead change in the final 3 laps in both races is exactly what we came here to see.
Yeah, you can only bear so much action, and I think we got plenty of it from both, and just that strategic, perfect sports car race. Well done.
Absolutely fantastic driving from everybody involved, and from everybody, especially in the leaders who battled so hard for that race win. In the end, it's Eddie Putinski who wins in the Sprint Series just an hour after Israel Osborne takes his first win of the season in the GT3 Fixed Series. Come back next week to see what happens at Montreal in the GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series. Meanwhile, we'll be back here on RaceSpotTV tomorrow with Truck Series racing from Homestead Miami Speedway. We hope to see you then from 9 p.m. Eastern. From myself, Ian Leary, David Haynes, and Hugo Louise behind the cameras, it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you again tomorrow.